The proposed changes can be grouped into several different areas, including ensuring Guernsey has enough land available for both private and affordable housing, making sure Guernsey has enough land available and the right policies to support business use. But it's also about reducing red tape and removing barriers to development and supporting our biodiversity and clarifying what's meant by the existing policies of the Island Development Plan. So as Deputy Oliver said, we want to make the most of our time this evening, so I'm just going to give a brief overview of the changes. The first set of changes are around housing land supply and our housing policies, and the review has looked at whether we have the right amount of land supply to meet the island's needs for housing over the next 5 years. The Development and Planning Authority have a very important role to ensure that there is the right land supply there for both private and affordable housing. To clarify, when we use the term affordable housing, it is actually a legal term, and it covers the type of housing like socially rented housing, key worker housing, specialised housing, and partial ownership at the moment. But it is defined in law, and when we use it, that's the term we're referring to. It's not what you would consider to be affordable housing that maybe your kids might be able to afford to buy. It is housing for households whose needs are not met or who cannot afford accommodation in the private sale or rental or market without assistance. So in assessing whether we had the right land supply to meet the island's needs, the starting point for the authority is to test this against what the states have set out is the need for housing over the next 5 years. The states agreed this last March, and they have set an indicator for both private and affordable housing, which equates to about just over 300 units per year. The authority looked at this figure and considered various factors that have happened since March, including that there's an increasing trend towards higher population migration than we were expecting, and also that the indicator does not account for key worker or specialised housing. To recognise this, the authority want to make sure that there's a land supply in place to meet the state's indicator, plus some room for wriggle, some buffer. So they have set a land supply or a target of meeting a land supply for the private market housing plus 15%, and for the affordable housing indicator plus 25%. The research and evidence shows that we actually have enough land supply identified within our main centres and local centres to meet the private market requirement. There's no need to look for any additional land or new housing allocations to meet that need. The affordable housing requirement, the research shows there's a shortfall in regards to the land supply for affordable housing. The authority have looked at this, and they've looked at an existing policy that's in place in the Island Development Plan known as GP11. GP11 actually requires private market sites, larger private market sites, to contribute towards affordable housing as they come forward. That policy has not delivered affordable housing to date. So instead, the authority are proposing to remove that policy and to designate 6 new sites that are for affordable housing. In this way, these 6 new sites, together with the sites owned by the states, the existing housing allocation sites, and the sites owned by the GHA, they'll be meeting towards affordable housing. One additional part to making the land supply for affordable housing was they looked at the industrial land at salt pans, and they looked at redesignating that land that's undeveloped and changing it from industrial reserve to a mixed-use development area, where 60% of that land will come forward for affordable housing. So in those 3 ways, the island can meet its need for affordable housing over the next 5 years. I'll just show you where those sites are now. So there are 6 new sites. There are 3 sites which are located in St Martin's Local Centre, and then there's 1 site in Limon Local Centre, There's one on the edge, northern edge of the St. Peter Port main centre by the Vrong housing allocation. And then there's one by St. Sampson's in the Vale main centre, just off Route Militaire. And you can also see on that map the existing housing allocations that are currently designated, which will remain. So they're the main changes towards housing land supply. The proposed amendments have also looked, and the review have also looked, at the land supply for employment uses. By employment uses, we're actually referring to offices, industry and storage and distribution. So we reviewed how the policies and the land supply is there for those uses over the next 5 years. Again, a lot of research has been done. A lot of this information is available on the gov.ug website for background reading. But to summarise here, in terms of offices, the forecasted need for offices can be met within the current designation for office expansion area at Admiral Park, which I can show you here, is located there. So there's still some undeveloped land within this designation, which can come forward with offices over the next 5 years. There's also opportunities there to intensify land there and bring forward further office accommodation. There are opportunities elsewhere within the main centres as well. In terms of industry, storage and distribution, the forecasts show a requirement for 20,000 square metres of land over the next 5 years. And in terms of land supply, the current policies reserve key industrial areas to support these uses, and they're marked purple on this map. So you can actually see Petronnery Road, Long Hoog, North Side, and the remaining area of salt pans. There's also an area by the airport called the Villiers. Those reserves of land will accommodate and support industry and storage and distribution going forward. Alongside that, the authority are reserving up to 40% of the salt pans mixed-use development area for these uses. Another step the authority are doing to support these sectors is to designate Lowlands Industrial Estate as a business park, which I'll just show you there is hatched blue on this map. This will be for uses like light industry, storage and distribution, offices and comparison retail. This reflects the existing uses that are there at the moment, and the purpose of this amendment will basically help to protect those uses to continue in our operation. They're the main changes for employment. There are others in other areas which are being clarified, but they're the main changes for employment. Some other changes that are being proposed by the authority are looking to reduce red tape and remove barriers to development. So in this instance, one of the proposed amendments is looking to reduce the requirement for development frameworks. Currently, the thresholds are set and they catch sites that are very simple and straightforward and are not benefiting from this extra step of preparing a development framework. So the proposed amendment is looking to change this to just be for sites that are complex and therefore reducing number of steps on certain sites to come forward, but making sure we make the most use of this tool in the future. There will, of course, be opportunities for public to still comment when people are making their planning applications in the normal way. Another area that the authority looked at was extending Limon local centre boundary to include Cattell Hospital. Cattell Hospital, which is owned by the States, has been earmarked for some time to become redundant for its current use and will come forward for redevelopment in the near future. As such, the authority are looking to bring this within the local centre to make it easier to redevelop and invest in the protected building that's there. Under the current policies at the moment, there is an opportunity for Cattell Hospital to be redeveloped. It's just a slightly longer and more time-consuming process. So this proposed amendment is to make that more straightforward. And lastly, one of the main areas is looking to support our biodiversity on the island. During the last public inquiry, when we brought forward the Island Development Plan, we made a commitment to update our evidence base behind this designation. As such, we've done that now, and Environment Guernsey have surveyed the entire island and updated our information. As a result, the new information is showing that we should add up to 140 hectares of land to this designation. It is saying that that's mainly through new land or new areas, but it's also saying to remove some existing areas that their biodiversity have diminished, and to extend or change the existing areas that we've identified. So in this way, we will be seeking to recognise our biodiversity. A key issue here to stress is that the overall policy approach will not be changing. The designation does not stop development coming forward. It just requires the authority to recognise the biodiversity value that's on that land. So if development does come forward and any harm is caused to the biodiversity, you're required to mitigate that. So overall, there's no loss to our biodiversity value. And that is an overview of all the changes.